Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Beat Your Addiction podcast with, of course, John Giordano. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones, and coming to you from Sober Life Studios. I want to, just before we start, let's get this out of the way. Take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please leave comments. Those comments are very important because it helps us so that we can reach more people. So please do that and share it with your friends. John, how are you, my friend?
I just got back from vacation. I'm doing fantastic.
I'm getting all these pictures. You're in front of the Coliseum. You're here. You're there.
Everywhere.
I mean, how cool? Because there was a point in your life when even you were heading in a direction where you wouldn't be allowed to leave the country. I mean, with your, you've gone so far. I mean, do you really have gratitude when you're out doing things like that? When you're touring around Europe?
I'll be honest with you. I can't even believe half the things I got going. You know, and like they say, beyond your wildest dreams. I thought they were a joke.
Yeah,
well, it is beyond my wildest dreams.
So, yeah, and your dreams change too, don't they?
On a daily basis.
Yeah, because all the dreams used to be about me. Now our dreams are about the people around us and the people we care about.
You know, after selling my treatment center in 2012, I got back into JC's Recovery Center, faith-based program, and then I'm adding all the alternative medicine to it.
Right.
And all the holistic stuff, and it's really cool. We changed houses, and the properties are beautiful now. It's really coming along really tight.
That's awesome.
Great team.
That's awesome. And you're kind of back into your best life. This is what you love to do. This is what you love. You've done a lot of different things, but when you're helping people, that's your favorite thing, right?
This is true.
Yeah. And anyway, welcome back from vacation. And now we are back with the podcast. And again, please remember to do all those things I asked you to do and leave a comment. Also, if you've got a suggestion for a guest or somebody that you'd like John to talk to or us to meet, please put that in the comments. We'll read those too.
And they don't have to agree with what I'm saying. It's fine. It's okay. We can agree to disagree. And then we could just talk about it and see where it goes.
John, they could disagree all they want. I got the mute button.
Oh,
That's just kidding. No, you know what? We learn by talking to each other and learning about new things.
Right.
And
it's all about rapport and communication.
Absolutely. Now, this is I'm going to try not to butcher the name. This is Mariya Javed-Payne, and she's coming to us from Minnesota. She is the owner of Awaken Consulting Services. She is a clinical social worker, a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, an international Brainspotting trainer and consultant. So, I mean, she's doing all sorts of stuff. And you know what? I could read all of this, but it's much better for us to just get into the conversation with her. And, you asked us, we call you Mari. Mari, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Totally. Our pleasure. Totally. John, I mean, you and her have a lot in common.
Yeah, we do. The brain spotting. What's the difference between that and EMDR?
Brainspotting is very, very attunement focused. It's very non-structured. EMDR is quite structured, right? You go through protocols. Brainspotting uses focused eye positions as well. So instead of eye movement, we're actually locating points in the visual field where people have more access to whatever the issue is that they're working on. We're getting direct access through the optic nerve into the midbrain, where all our emotions and memories and trauma, our patterns, behaviors are stored. And where the theory is that we're actually accessing the neural networks that hold all of that information. And then you combine that with somatic processing so that people can actually move the trauma energies out of their body. So it seems to be, it seems to go deeper than EMDR, and people have a lot more flexibility in what they process, how they process, and how we can flex things within a session. So it's a pretty adaptable trauma modality.
Well, that's interesting because I've been doing EMDR for like 20 years,
mm-hmm.
and I noticed that there was deficiencies in it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, so what happened was Shapiro, she had to play to the psychiatrist.
Yes.
So that was the game. So she had to structure it a certain way, and 6 sessions and all this stuff. I'll be honest with you, I do 1 session, 2 sessions, and I work with military people. I work with, well, Scott knows. I work with people that have been molested. I'm a chaplain for the police department. I work with officers that have been in shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned was I liked combining modalities.
Absolutely.
So what I do is I also have a master's in neurolinguistic programming, NLP.
Mm-hmm.
So I add NLP. I'm also a hypnotherapist. So I added the tonalities of hypnotherapy, and I also do holotropic breathing. So
Ooh, you and I are a lot alike.
I know. So I combined all of that with the EMDR, and what I noticed that people take their course in EMDR, what they're not looking at is if you're desensitizing somebody, and what you have to realize is that if they move their hands, they hold their breath, they start moving their feet. When they start doing that, they diminish the eye movement.
Mm-hmm.
So that they have to stay on top of, number one. And number two, I don't go to the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the emotions that would elicit it from the trauma. Because what happens with that is then when you go into the session, it hooks to all this other stuff that's in there that they don't even talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, you're getting.
And then I watch where the eyes get stuck. And wherever they get stuck, that's where the information is housed.
If you guys could take
exactly what brain spotting is we're looking for where the eyes, you see some reflexes, and we actually hold there. So I'd be curious if you did that and you actually invited the client to keep their eyes there as they process.
What I do is I keep focusing on that.
You're already doing brain spotting.
And until it gets smooth, and then I move to something else.
Guys, there's a lot of people watching who might not understand some of this. When you're talking about trauma being stored in a certain part of the brain and different things like that, and looking for where it's stored, people might not understand that. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by all of that? I guess people think that
I can get my answer.
When something's wrong, they think everything's wrong. So what exactly are you guys talking about location and trauma?
Yeah, it's an important differentiator to know where things are happening inside of the brain. So I give like a really simple brain explanation that our brain has like 3 sections, right? So you've got your frontal lobe, which is your thinking brain, or your neocortex. That's where you have more rational thought, where your cognitions, your thinking, your day-to-day planning, sequencing, mathematics, those kinds of things are all happening. Your logic brain in the frontal lobe, and it's the newest part of the human brain. The next section is the subcortex, or the midbrain. So it sits right underneath the neocortex, and that's where we have our emotions, our memories are formed there, our autonomic processes. So your hormones and all the things that you don't have to think about to keep yourself functioning and alive, and also our motor coordination. So if we're in a traumatic event, your brain, your midbrain, is going to receive information about whatever stimuli is happening outside and have a response to that. So like an emotional response, maybe it's fear, or anxiety, or anger, or something. And it's also going to create body movement in order to deal with that. So the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or collapse aspects of the nervous system's way of like managing life, managing the world, managing how to be in safety and how to be in dealing with threat. So that part of the brain is harder to access. It's like the seat of our subconscious, and it's reflexive. So you don't really have a ton of choice. Like when traumatic things happen, your thinking brain is going to come after. If you're, cars coming by and you're crossing the street and you jump away because your senses took in, a car's whizzing by, or you heard a sound, you're going to reflexively move back. And then you're going to think, oh, a car just went by, right? So there's a delay. It's actually 10 times slower, the thinking brain, than the subcortex or midbrain works. The brainstem is below the subcortex, and that's the oldest part of our brain. And that's dealing with our total autonomic functionality. So going into our spinal cord, bringing in the peripheral nerves, the information from those, and keeping us breathing, managing our heart rate, all of those automatic functions that we don't have to think about. So trauma is stored in that subcortex, and our optic nerve, our eyes, go directly into that subcortex. The optic nerve actually sits right above the amygdala. Amygdala is like the fire alarm for when something bad is happening or when something good is happening, so that you can have an emotional response to that. And the thinking brain actually has really not any direct connection to emotional regulation, right? So if you've been going to therapy and doing talk therapy and you're finding like, oh, it's not really helping, I can't really seem to get better, I'm not getting access, we're not dealing with the right part of the brain. It's not you, it's the modality. And so we want to use modalities that get direct access to the midbrain, and Brainspotting does that. So
You know, it's
one
so
other
funny.
piece, one other piece I want to add is that talking, verbal communication is more of a neocortical process. And so when we talk, we actually get pulled out of the subcortex. So when we're doing trauma processing, at least in Brainspotting, we have a lot of focus on being very careful about how we talk, when we talk, and also utilizing a lot more silence so that people can go in and hold their focus inside of that subcortex. And what happens on its own is that the nervous system starts to self-correct itself. It knows how to if it's given the right tools and ingredients. And if we bring people down into the subcortex, which you do by usually eliciting body awareness, then we have them hold in that space, and the brain starts to rewire and make new neural connections and discharge survival energies that have been stuck there with the presence of someone who they hopefully feel safe with. There's a sense of relative safety and a strong sense of connection that the person in front of you can hold whatever comes up. So it's a little bit about somatic trauma therapy 101.
Well, I like the way you explain it. I explain it a little differently, but we're on the same page. When I say talk therapy deals with the software of the brain, and EMDR and brain spotting deals with the hard drive.
There you go. Yeah.
Guys, I just make it simple for people a little bit. I mean, you were very astute the way you went about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just simplify it. And what I learned doing this for all these years is that, first of all, emotions are not only in the brain, they're in the body.
Exactly.
They're in your heart. They're everywhere.
They're
So
not,
what I
the
do
brain
is-
isn't separate from the body. It's an entire connected system.
Well, it's, what people don't understand,
Yeah.
this is a system. It's not a head walking around.
Exactly.
And what I do a lot of times also, besides with the MBR, I take it a step further. So we only have about a 5 to 8% recovery rate in addiction and mental health, really. And, as you know, it's like, what are we doing? We keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, which is like almost like stupid. They're stuck on stupid,
Preach.
So what normally what I take a look at also is I do micronutrient testing to see if their nutrients are out of balance, gut testing. Now, as you may know, gut testing, what happens is you learn that when the gut's out of whack, your brain's out of whack.
100%.
Because there's more neurons in your gut than in your brain, number one.
Yep.
Number two, most of your serotonin and dopamine, those are your feel-good drugs that we manufacture naturally, are manufactured in the gut, goes up the vagus nerve and deposits it into the brain, the neural network.
Exactly.
So when you were talking about the brain, what I learned was that there are different quadrants in the brain, like the same thing what you're saying, okay? And there's billions of information that is stored when you're looking at something. People don't realize that. And it goes into different areas of the brain. And there was a girl who was raped, and they did an EMDR technique on her. And she was fine for a couple of years. And she was in a restaurant, and a train whistle went by. She jumped off the chair into a fetal position. And what they figured out was that sound also contributed to part of the trauma, and it just woke up that trauma.
Right.
So what I do with the technique is I do what shape does this emotion take? What color? Does it have any weight? Does it make any sounds? Have any taste? Does it have any movement? I do all those things to give it form.
Exactly.
And then I go from 10 to 0, and which is the strongest. And then I do the cadences with them. And we're on the same path, you and I. It's really interesting. What do you think about ketamine? Now you had 3 ketamine clinics, so let me hear your take on ketamine.
I think it's an interesting substance. I was very skeptical about it when it first came out. I'm definitely really interested in the world of entheogens and these medicines, right, that are becoming popularized, I suppose, and back in the media after, 40, 50 plus years of having to go underground. And of course, a lot of these medicines have been around for thousands of years. So I want to also appreciate the strong indigenous connection to them. Um, but ketamine is an interesting character. It's an atypical psychedelic, as I'm sure you know. And when I first started working with it with clients, I was really skeptical. And then I saw what it was doing. And um, I am seeing some really profound shifts with it. Now, I think it also has, there's a lot of layers to this conversation, or to answering your
Yeah.
question, but I think it has a place in the world of healing. And kind of like you, I don't just look for like that one thing that can help people. I really believe in the holistic model. I really believe that, medicines aren't the answer to everything. And um, the hype, and capitalism really popularizes things and, brings a lot of hype into stuff. But um, it's it's had some really profound effects in helping people access different states of consciousness so that they can start to think about things differently, and also pretty rapid effect in reducing depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms. I like working with it at lower doses, psycholytic doses. That's my favorite way of utilizing a lot of these medicines, so that when folks are coming in for psychotherapy, we're actually blending the medicine work with very deep relational attachment, and trauma work. So what ketamine does at very low doses is that instead of, taking you out into a whole other reality, it softens your defenses, right? Just like lowers the inhibition a little bit. And so if you're taking a dose, maybe 50 milligrams or 100 milligrams sublingually, we can access some of those ego states or uh, more vulnerable parts of people, while otherwise we wouldn't be able to get so close to those parts because they're, protected by defense mechanisms.
Well, it's usually the inner child that's protecting everything, and the adult is trying to protect the child.
Yeah.
So that's same thing with EMDR, okay, or what I call it TRT, trauma release technique.
Hmm.
When I see a client is not responding, I say,
Hmm.
okay, I want to talk to the little guy or the little girl. And
Yeah,
it changes the whole dynamic of what's going on.
sure does. Yeah.
You can also see their face and their body language change, you
Right.
know. But see, ketamine, if it's not done properly, can cause a big problem, a lot of problems.
Agreed.
First of all, those trochees, I
Hmm.
don't care for them too much because I tell you why. If they're an addict and they do a trochee, they're going to go look for it outside. If they're feeling good, they're feel good junkies.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
So that's a little dangerous thing. You have to really do a good intake and find out who you're dealing with, which you probably already do. But
100%. Yeah,
right,
very, very careful with anyone who has a addiction
right.
history or potential.
And IV actually is one of the ways to go, which is you get a lot of good results from IV also, but it has to have an intent. Any psychedelic, you have to have an intent.
Hmm.
And why do you want to do this? Where do you want to go with this? What do you want to get out of this? What direction you want to go. So then you bring it into the front of the brain, all right? And you're starting to act when you access the back of the brain, it's
Right.
like a warp speed.
Yeah.
So, and then when they come out, then they need to talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about and tells them what they saw and how it relates to their life and how it relates to their emotions and their feelings. Now, ketamine, they say it's a 6 session. Now, the two ladies I work with are anesthesiologists
Hmm.
and really, really very, very good at what they do. They, it goes by weight ketamine, as you know. If you go too much, they go out into sleep because it's used as an anesthetic. But if you do, you start, I think, 0.5 or 0.6, and then they titrate up. And then what we did was they would watch their effect afterwards and see how they responded to the certain dosages, and
Mhm.
they would adjust the dosages accordingly. See, that's the best way to fly with that I found, the way they do it, because we get the best results that way instead of just doing a standard protocol. And
Absolutely.
everybody's different. So, I mean, how's that going to work?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. My main concern with the infusion model is that most of the time the therapy talking processing component isn't a part of it,
Right.
and
And
that
that's
in
the
general
mistake.
it's pretty out of reach financially for most people. So more to come on that as the field changes and more data comes out. But right now there's only a certain class of folks that can typically access the
Well, they
benefit.
only want 6 sessions, and I think it should be 10. And then they need boosters maybe every month, every 3 months, every 2 months, or whatever.
Hmm.
But they have to do the work, and they have to go to therapy and continue the process because, as you know, ketamine creates new neural pathways in the brain.
Right.
But
Right.
that pathway is just like a path in the woods, grass on either side, sand in the middle where people walk. But if you don't walk there, it gets overgrown. So it's
Right.
the same thing as you know, the same thing with the new neural pathway. You have to feed it, and you
Hmm.
have to, develop it. And if you can't people think they do ketamine and fixed. Oh, I had this wonderful journey. I understand everything now. No, that's not the way it works. So it took
Correct.
years to develop it, takes years to change it, or time, whatever that is. You know. So are you familiar with Ibogaine?
I am, yes.
Now, what
Really,
do you
really.
think about that? I've treated hundreds of clients
I
with
think
Dr. Nash.
I think it's phenomenal, right? I think
Incredible substance.
yeah. Yeah, it's the grandfather of them all.
Yep. Well, you got ayahuasca, you got psilocybin, but on the tree of plant medicine, Ibogaine is the top tree.
Right. Yeah.
But that also has to be done properly.
Mhm.
And the pushback is people are dying. They died
Mhm.
from Ibogaine. But no, they died from poor medical management is what they
Mhm.
died
Mhm.
from. And people come in really debilitated. And you have to do not an EKG, you have to do 24-hour heart monitor, toxicology test, blood work, the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
And that's how you really have to begin the journey with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you done ketamine?
I have experienced it as a client. So
Good.
yeah, and I don't believe in really doing these types of things and not having experienced it.
How
So
are you going to talk to somebody about ketamine who even had never done it?
that's just it. Yeah. Yeah. It's an altered state of consciousness. It's different territory. So, I mean, working with someone who also has done their own work, I think is critical when you're looking for support. I don't believe in serving something that, therapy, even that, like, if you haven't done your own healing work, right, that people feel that. People can feel in my body that I have done work and I can hold whatever is showing up for them because I've had people hold that for me. So it's this beautiful ripple effect that we pass on to one another in that human connection. So
I have to ask. I mean, she looks like she's in her 20s, John.
here we go.
Right?
Because of the ketamine treatment she did.
That's what
I'm
got you
34.
what got you started on this path? I mean, I understand why I do what I do is because of my past. And John, he's even wrote about it in his books about his past and why he helps people. What got you on this journey to work in these areas of addictions and PTSD? Was there
Mhm.
something that happened?
Oh yeah, right? Isn't it for most of us?
Yeah, that's why I had to
Yeah,
ask. Yeah.
we end up, right? Yeah, so I've been in recovery for about 14 years. I had a really,
All
really
right.
thank you. Thank you. It's taken a long road to get here, but yeah, I was from about age 13 to 21, very, very addicted to started out with opiate pills and then, obviously alcohol and all the other stuff. And then I was really addicted to IV cocaine and IV oxy and Percocet. And then I went into crack cocaine for about 4 years straight. So I went to rehab 8 different times, did not stay sober. Um, was institutionalized for about 2.5 years total, and from 13 to 20, and really struggling with mental health, really, I mean, in all the ways, right? Houseless, addicted, staying at crack houses. I mean, it's just, that was my world for a long time. So eventually got sober at age 20, outside of rehab, actually. Kind of had a spiritual awakening, I suppose, but it felt like more like being in the mouth of the devil and getting the shit scared out of me. And got finally clean, stopped all the pills, stopped all the drugs, stopped taking all my meds, actually, too, because I didn't know what was me and what was, the substances. And so that's when it started, was 2010, the road to like actual working very diligently towards recovery. And I had dropped out of school a few times, college a few times, because of my addiction. So I went back, and finished, got my bachelor's in social work, got my master's in social work after that, and also my addiction counseling diploma. So you'd think like, oh, drinking and drugging, that's like the worst part of it, right? 8 years of that, 7 years of that. But really the last 14 years have been, really good in a lot of ways, finding my path, finding my purpose. And I still have a lot of physical issues from my addiction, and I'm still healing those. So I've had all the stuff that you were talking about, John, right? Like dealing with the gut and I have fibromyalgia. I got a viral infection during my addiction, the last year of my addiction, when it was very, very dark. And it ravaged my body. I also have Lyme's disease. So it's been, dealing with my physical health has been that next huge layer, while also dealing with my mental health. And the good news is I've had wonderful people and mentors and therapists and healers to help me get to where I am. But so anyway, that being said, 7 years into my recovery, discovered Brainspotting. And up till that, I was like kind of functioning, but I had PTSD so bad, I didn't go for a walk for about 4 years. From like 2010 to 2014, I did not leave my apartment to like go walking around, because I had so much fear of people. And a few years later, someone told me about Brainspotting and that they had been doing it as a client. And I was like, well, that sounds cool. Like, that's a weird word. I want to see what that's about. I went for one session and I did like 6 months of therapy in an hour. And for someone who had been to rehab, I could teach rehab at that point, like
That's right. I know.
I was like, where the heck was this entire time, right? Like, so many near-death experiences, so much, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotionally, all of the things. And it wasn't until, what's that?
We're very similar. I've had all the sexual abuse.
Yeah, we are really similar. We'll have to.
All 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because you were just saying, I mean, it's like, where was all that stuff? And John, you're trying to bring that into the mainstream rehab, is to look at other options.
Listen, it's hilarious. I lectured in Taiwan. I was with a bunch of neuroscientists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and things like that. And here I am. I'm talking about the co-contributing factors to addiction and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And, like leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori infection, low testosterone, high testosterone, hypoglycemia, low thyroid, closed head injuries. All of these are precursors for depression and anxiety. We're not looking at that stuff. We keep doing talk therapy. Well, try talking to your thyroid. Let me know how it works. So
it's low.
Right? So when I'm done with the lecture, they all came around and go, we never thought of this. I said, well, how can you treat somebody only from here up? That's why we only have like an 8% recovery rate.
Right. And no one touched my traumas. No one touched my childhood traumas.
They don't.
8 different times I went to rehab. We didn't touch it. It wasn't until 2017.
I went with Dr. Blum. He's the geneticist who found the main addiction gene, because there is one.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the DRD2-ALE1 variant gene. Mm-hmm. Now, because you have that gene doesn't mean you're going to become an addict, but it means your propensity to be one. So, because there's such a thing as, as epigenetics, the social environment can change the gene expression.
Correct.
But what we call it is RDS, reward deficiency syndrome. So we group all of the addictions together, even though some, each one has its own symptomatology and all this stuff, but they're all searching for dopamine and serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
So we call it RDS, reward deficiency syndrome, because treatment centers don't look at the other addictions, most of them.
No, they don't.
Cocaine goes with sex addiction. Alcohol goes with gambling. I mean, it's not cut and dry, but it's similar. That's what happens.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And even 14 years in, right, I still have that obsessive compulsive thinking, right? It's like,
join the club. I'm 40 years coming up on. It never leaves.
Yeah. The only thing I can do is befriend it because it's hardwired.
It's like going on a roller coaster. Just enjoy the ride.
I'm 40 years clean and sober. When am I going to get up this coast and ride?
Right.
Listen, those are the, when people say I'm recovered, I say, no.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's if you're alive, you're recovering because shit, excuse my expression, keeps happening.
Mm-hmm.
People die, you get cheated on, you get abused, all kinds of stuff goes on. All your past comes up, I wrote my book. Do you have a book, by the way?
No, but it's on my to-do list.
Your bucket list.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
I actually
got a great story, man.
Just started my sabbatical. I'm slowing down a little bit on clinical work right now and focusing on teaching and creating some newer things to share with the public. But I'm going to be heading in that direction at some point. I know I need to do it. I've known since I was like 13 years old that I need to write a book. I used to be an English major, creative writing major. So
well, just sit down and do it. I mean,
I might have to.
I couldn't spell very well, so they have spell check. Grammar, I have grammar check. So I'm good. The book is The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
Ooh, I love it. All right.
It's my life story.
Amazing.
And I wrote it to motivate people. My family was a mafia family, and my uncle threw my wedding when I was 20, and the caterer insulted him, so he killed him.
Mm-hmm.
I had all kinds of trauma everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is I do it to help people, to motivate them and show them, like, look at my school, look at my where I came from, look at my family, all this kind of stuff. And then I sold my treatment center, and we started it with $300 and we sold it for $45 million.
Wow.
Now, like I always tell people, if you wouldn't have told me that early on, I'd probably punch you in the face thinking you're trying to make fun of me.
Yeah.
Well, who the heck knows how this journey is going to be?
Right.
All I know is I get high today helping people.
Absolutely. Same here.
I love what you have to say. And I love your journey. Write the darn book already.
Yeah, you know what? Women need to hear what you're saying because not enough women come out with their stories. We see a lot of men coming out with stories. We need more women to come out with stories, especially when you're talking about that isolation. Even when you're in recovery, you still are isolating and hiding. And there's no way to describe that unless you feel it and have gone through it. So I think people need to hear that story.
Well, what makes me laugh, when you go study, would be an LCSW, MSW, the W's.
Yeah.
They're not to disclose.
I know. Well, I don't follow that rule.
I've never heard of in my entire life. Oh, I'm going to be a report with you, but I can't tell you anything about me.
Exactly. I think that's incorrect. Our folks need to know that we're human and we're struggling, right? And we have, not to take over.
They're not going to share with a diploma. They want to share with a human being. Be a human being first.
Yeah.
Take the diploma off the wall and hang up a picture of Eddie Van Halen. Like
I don't even have mine up on the wall.
See, because all it does is separate you from the client.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk to them a person.
It used to be where you had to wear a suit and tie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Then they finally did a research paper on it. They go, well, now you got this guy's up here. These people already feel down here. Now you make them even further.
Right. Yeah.
John figured that out years ago. I used to work for him at his treatment center before he sold it. And you walk around and just the way people dress and do things, you couldn't tell the clients from the staff. But that's actually why it worked.
Except we wore badges.
We wore badges.
Yep. Same.
We'd be allowed to go home at night, or else they'd have to lock us in. But it was. Do you have a website people can go to and learn more about what you do? And
yeah, I do. It's www.awaken consultingservices.com. And then my husband and I he's a life coach, and we just started another offshoot of our company called Awakened Roots. And so that one is Awakened, AWAKENED -roots.com.
Well,
So
send it to us, so Scotty will post it.
sure. Yeah. So in Awakened Roots, we're doing more of the holistic things. We're doing breath work. We're doing energy work. All of the more holistic types of modalities to help folks that have been really life-changing. Breath work has been phenomenal. We have events that we're hosting and doing group work with breath work. It's better than therapy, frankly, if I can admit it.
Our clients do breath work. We send them to breath work, cold plunge,
Yep.
infrared sauna, red light therapy,
Amazing.
yoga, gym, and that's our executive program that we have.
Yeah.
Right. And do micronutrient testing, gut testing, heavy metal testing, and methylation testing. Because
I'm doing all of those things for my own healing. I had really high levels of mercury in my body from a lot of the solvents and the drugs I was using. And
what are you using to chelate it out?
I'm using, I've done the DMSA and DMPS route, and right now I'm using a product called OSR, and it's actually not sold in the United States, but
because it works probably.
Right, because it's working. It actually has a 99% affinity to bind with mercury.
Could you send that information to Scott? Because I'm always looking for new things.
Yeah, it's slow and steady, but it's happening bit by bit.
Also saunas and glutathione.
Yep, I'm doing all of those things. Pretty powerful.
Right. And what about NAD?
On it.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I feel like I got an honorary PhD in all the
me too.
stuff, medical stuff, because of my own body. So, yeah.
Mari, do you have an email that people can reach out to you at for your business?
Yeah, there's actually a contact form on my website, so that'd be the easiest. Or if they want to,
just do that. Well, and I'll reach out to you through that as well and get the information flowing back and forth.
Sure.
So we can share what we have. You share what you have.
It's really been an honor working with you on this podcast. I love having people that really know what the hell they're talking about.
And I still don't understand how you can fit all of that. You're 24 years old. How you got all of that?
34.
He doesn't count very well.
All I've been doing is working on healing. I know that.
Oh, that's great.
Probably like you, John, right? It's our whole world is that I don't fluff my life with a whole lot of things that waste my time. I really want to be connected to the earth and people and what's going to bring health and wholeness to folks in a time on the planet that really needs it. So I think I'm built for it. I probably work too much, which is something I'm, the addictions, right? But
none of us know anything about that.
Well, you know what I tell people, like I watch them smoking these vapes and doing this. I said, look, I want you to imagine you get clean and sober. Your life is coming together. All right. And your family starts talking to you again. And you have all of this stuff. And then you die of cancer, high blood pressure, or diabetes because you didn't take care of your body. So all you did was change seats in the Titanic.
That's right.
You stopped the drugs and now you destroyed your body. God gave whatever God is to you, gave you this body as a gift. Mm-hmm. It's that what you do with that gift back to the Creator.
Absolutely.
So how are you handling your body is what you got to focus on also.
Yeah, that's what I usually put a lot of attention on because we're very mind and thinking focused in our culture, but we're not as body focused. We have a huge separation between the head and the body. My whole job is to bring people into connection again.
There you go.
Well, Mari, we appreciate the job you do, the work you do, and thank your husband too. How cool that you guys get to work hand in hand on some of these things as well.
My better half.
I know John includes his family in a lot of the work he does. I include my family. Yeah. So that really is helpful too. But start writing your book. We're going to get on you about that.
Yeah, we're going to get on you. Write the book.
All right, I'm on it. Thank you for that push.
And this is Mariya Javed-Payne. And if you want to learn more, awakenconsultingservices.com. You can go there and learn more about what she does or reach out and contact right through that. Mari, thank you so very much. John, another great guest, another great show.
Really good show.
And just
you.
reminding everybody out there, if you like this show, please subscribe to the channel, like it, and certainly share it with your friends. And leave a comment, because that helps us get the word out there.
And we're giving you information to help save your life or those of your loved ones. So you don't have to agree with it. At least listen and see what you think. And then, I always tell people, don't believe a word I tell you. Go look it up.
Mari, you're so awesome. We're going to give you the closing thought. Somebody's out there listening right now, maybe a young female who's gone through the ringer but is so afraid to move. What do you want to tell them?
It might not seem like help is out there, right? The help that you're needing, but it is. So what you seek is seeking you. And at some point, just keep looking and don't give up, and find the people that you feel safe being with, like that your body can trust as you go through the healing process. And we're out here, we're wanting to help. So it's keep looking and do not quit, because your life matters. It's worth it. My life is completely 100% different than what it was 14 years ago. I've come farther than I ever could have thought, and got a ways to go. So anything is possible when you decide what your North Star is.
Well, the bottom line is, which
Nice.
is really funny, we know how to look for drugs. You can drop us off in the forest. We'll find them.
Exactly.
Right? So you can find a good therapist, a good people. But somebody like yourself is the kind of person you guys want to look for. Because, first of all, regular therapy, it's okay. But if you really want to go and peel the onion even deeper and get to the causation of what's going on with you, you have to find somebody like this young lady.
Yeah.
For Mariya Javed-Payne, our guest, John Giordano, I'm Scott Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time right here on Beat Your Addiction. Bye-bye now.